Stakeholder partners, Nature Conservancy, Earth First, Ducks Unlimited, and the Sierra Club were all stakeholders. How many private property owners were involved as a stakeholder? Anybody want to guess? Zero. That is absolutely correct. Alright, now let's say that Agenda 21 is not in America. I want you to look at these two, if everybody can see that. This is from the Blue Wave nominating documents, and this is from Agenda 21, Section 18.8. Please tell me the difference. You're absolutely right, there is no difference. It's a trick question. Do you see a difference in those two statements? So when somebody tries to tell you that Agenda 21 is not in America, they either don't know what they're talking about, or they have an agenda of their own. Because this is exactly came out of the paperwork, and I have the paperwork to show you. I might not have it all here tonight, but the paperwork does exist. Nationally and regionally significant, integrated water resource management. It is an integral part of the ecosystem. Watersheds that are highly valued recreational, a natural resource, social and economic good, social, economic, cultural, and it's all the same language, guys. They rearrange it a little bit. And how do we get this way? Where do we get this? It's from the institutionalization of the environmentalist movement. They are involved at every level of government, they're involved at every level of your community, and they're involved at every level of the world. These are the folks that put these things together. These are the folks that are coming up with the regulations that you have to suffer and abide by. ICLEI, International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives. You can look at this. We're about out of time. These several cities here in the state of Missouri that are part of this. These guys, they provide technical consulting. This is where an awful lot of sustainable development ideas and policy processes come from. They go through the American Planning Association. Right now, does Cape Girardeau County as a county have planning and zoning? Yes. Not your city, but as a county.
No, but they're trying to get peripheral zoning.
Okay, but the county doesn't yet, right? Do not allow that to happen.
How are you going to know if this is happening? You have to attend county commission meetings.
That's exactly right.
You have to attend them.
Because they will do it behind your back.
Yep.
And if they're not intentionally doing it behind your back, but if you're not involved, and they're not gonna reach out and say, well, would you like to be regulated a little bit more? No, they're not gonna do that. They're just gonna wind up going through their processes. It is up to you to keep an eye on what your elected official is doing. Sit there and make them do their business in front of you. And when you don't like what you're seeing, call them out on it. Yep. So I assure you, the other side is there from time to time trying to get their process across. You should be there trying to stop it or get your process across.
The peripheral zoning, did you say?
I'm sorry?
Planning and zoning, county.
County planning, county-wide planning and zoning. They're trying to, they want this in every state in the country. Because how did we talk about earlier that these things go through? They go through comprehensive planning and planning and zoning. This is how they do it. All right, you have to have the mechanism in place first. The infrastructure has to exist first before they can continue the regulation. And although these things have been going on for years, Obama's administration has put all of this stuff on hyperdrive. There is more coming out right now on all of this environmentalist global warming. He said on the floor of the United States Senate during his State of the Union address that global warming, what? It's not an issue. And climate change exists.
It's settled science.
It's settled science. That is so far from the truth. It's but that's what he says. Okay, so they want to do this. And how they're going to do this is they're going to go through the State House. And I think they've already tried some, but it's been pushed back. So they'll go through the General Assembly of Missouri, and then the General Assembly of Missouri would require that every county have a planning and zoning board. And then they'll come down and they'll appoint one, and then they'll go through the zoning and plan. And it might, again, it's the infrastructure. It might not mean much at first. It might sound very innocent today. But I assure you in the future, it will be a problem. This just shows how the money flows. This is kind of how they do what they do, and that's really about all I have. So this is kind of how far they think, again, who they are. This is the United Nations compilation of these reports. This is how long access to the internet. Why would access to the internet be a big part of what they want to do? Well, unfortunately, it's kind of backfired on them because by making sure there's a lot of internet access, we can figure out what they're doing and start looking. But what it does, it's a great method of disseminating information, isn't it? And they want to be able to do that. How about this right here, forest and deforestation? They've almost got that regulated to the point where they're done with it. Fresh water management, boy, they're right about there. National coordinating bodies, they've got those set up all over the place. Environmental impact assessment laws. How about right, before you can go build much of anything, you have to do an environmental impact study. They allege this is why the Keystone Pipeline is not being built, is because of the environmental impact studies. That's not true either. They've already figured out it's not going to be that big of a deal. They just don't want to build the wrong thing. That's all there is to it. And look,
The study didn't say what they wanted it to say.
well, the study didn't say what they, but they look at, they don't.
A lot of it's already built.
Well, that's true too. They don't care about the environment as much as they care about controlling you. They do not want vehicles on the road, so why would they help gas get any cheaper by letting a pipeline come through America? It's not the pipeline, and it's not the environment. It's that they don't want you to use fossil fuels anymore. So if they can restrict the flow of it and make it more expensive, you will start clamoring for better fuel-efficient cars and trucks and other things of that nature and stimulate a green economy, right? How about when Obama took office? What was gas, about $1.80 a gallon, something like that, I think it was. Look where it's at today. Do you remember when George H.W. Bush was in office? Do you remember the news media just crying and going crazy when gas got up to $3 a gallon? Do you remember what they were doing when it almost got to $4 a gallon? They went they went nuts. What have they said to Obama about gas prices? Nothing. They have an agenda, and it has nothing to do with your this one.
Well, they just announced today that all them fish that died on the west coast last summer and fall, they found out it was due to global warming.
Well, global warming, you'll find out, is going to be an excuse for just about anything. That's all I have on my presentation. I've got some others that we can do another time if we come out and what have you.
Supposed to be news.
Yeah, it's supposed to be news, right? But that's all I have. Thank you very much for listening. I probably won't go over to, I probably won't go there. I'll probably hit the road and hit back. It's about 3.5 hours to get home, so.
They kicked us out at 9 o'clock.
Okay, very good. I'll stick around for almost next.
Anybody, I thank you very much. When I started on this, after I took on the pool class, I decided that Agenda 21 was what I was gonna pursue, and I tell you, what they have done over Lebanon, the research they have done, was so helpful to me, so I thank you very much. We've been on the phone and everything for the last 2 years, but this is the first time I've ever met in person. So I thank him for coming. If you found that he was worthy and if you'd like to help him, he came over here without a penny. He did not ask for a penny. He didn't ask for any gas money. So I'm going to pass the pot if you feel like you want to help him out at all with anything. And then I have the 50-50 drawing, and let's see, somebody who's never attended before. I don't know. Have you been to our meetings before? Ever? One time? Is there anybody here for your first time? You are. Would you draw our 50 drawing, please?
Ben, you want to come on up and give a heritage update?
Sure. I'm Ben Evans with Heritage Action.
Oh, I gotta give away some money.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you got your tickets out. 7444020. I think that's me. 020. Is it 020? Is that you? Julie, she won $21. Woo-hoo-hoo. Yeah, give it to him. Give it to him for his gas money? Absolutely. So his way? Absolutely. Thank you very much.
I just had two things to cover. One, based on accountability, which we talked about a lot in here, and we do a scorecard so that you can hold your elected members of Congress accountable at Heritage Action. I'm your representative if you guys haven't met me before. I need to dress a little nicer. I'm sorry about nice today. But
Yeah.
I'm just going to give you a couple votes that just happened. One of them was the Feminist History Museum. I don't know if you all heard about this. They're trying to build a museum on the mall. It's allegedly a women's history museum, but there are no conservative women's organizations that are involved with it. It's going to end up being a shrine of Margaret Sanger and feminists, leftist feminists. But there were a lot of members of the House that voted that, including Jason Smith. Now, it was held up in the Senate, so right now in the Senate, somebody got a hold on it. I don't know who, but there were enough votes against it in the House for the Senate to hold it. But that's something that you might want to talk to him about why he would vote to fund this commission to put this museum on the National Mall. The other thing based on fuel efficiency, or not fuel efficiency, but transportation funds that we were talking about a little bit. The Transportation Empowerment Act would allow Missouri to keep all of the federal gas taxes that we collect and spend it on our own. So that way we can hold our state officials and our local officials accountable in how they're spending that money for the transportation funds. A lot easier than if the federal government's sending this and telling us where we are supposed to spend it. So the Transportation Empowerment Act we're looking for sponsors on it, and that's another one that you can talk to Congressman Smith about to sign on to that, because he hasn't signed on to that bill yet. And transportation's coming up right now. There's a bunch of different bills out there, and this is the one that will give us the most control over our highway costs. So I talked to him about that Women's History Museum and the Transportation Empowerment Act, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Where's the National Mall?
National Mall in D.C.
Oh,
For Washington line.
Yes.
Is, how much longer is Jason going to be in, did I,
He gets voted in or out in November, but I don't think he has anything running against. He doesn't
I
have,
think he does.
he's not got a primary
There's
opponent.
not a whole lot of competitive races in Missouri this year.
But we
okay,
can-
so
we can
he
hold
didn't-
Yeah, accountability is not,
Well, no, I
elections
was
are,
just thinking that he didn't want that position, and so I was kind of curious.
yeah, this is a safe
Oh,
district.
he wanted that.
He
This
still
is,
wants
this
it?
is, so here's one of the things that we can work with your congressman on, is, he needs to be a leader on conservative issues. He says he's conservative, he does take a conservative stance on a lot of things, but he's not out there with some of the other leaders in the House taking those stances, like Max Salmon, Justin Amash, Trey Gowdy. There's a bunch of guys out there that are taking the leads on issues, and he's not. And so we should encourage him to be a leader on those issues, because right now in Missouri, it seems like the delegation's just following Ann Wagner around.
That's
His
right,
scores
she's
dropped down
not-
to 70% right now. So he started up above 90%, and he's been dropping steadily down to 70%, getting closer and closer to Ann Wagner.
And Ann Wagner is not your friend. Republican is not your friend. But I'm going to tell you, Jason Smith's local, local telephone number, and it's 335-0101. And who will answer that phone? Her name is Leslie. Very nice, and she needs to know, she needs to hear from you. I can tell you, I've talked to Leslie many times, and she will listen to you. Even, I said, Leslie, when I first started calling her, I know nothing about this stuff. I'm a nurse, blah, blah, blah. And so she will take she'll listen to your heart, and she will pass that on to Jason. I can promise you, the word gets around back to Jason pretty quick, that we're calling,
And
okay?
that's an important point, is to be friendly. This isn't about being confrontational. You want
Right.
to build a relationship with that office so that they can look to you for help when you call up again on other issues. So
Yeah.
it's good to get to know that person. I would say check out our scorecard at heritageaction.com. That'll give you all the information you need, at least to start out having those conversations like Dan's having. So get yourself informed, and that's how you can hold them accountable. It's the same thing with Agenda 21. If you know what's going on around here, you can have an intelligent conversation with elected officials about that.
You got a question in there?
yeah, I got a topic, down in Mexico, there's a army guy being held in prison down there. I wanna know what we can do to help get the ball rolling to help him.
Certainly call Leslie and talk to her, but that number that she gave, ask Jason to get involved with it.
Okay.
There's some kind of petition out there
There's a
too.
White House petition that has to have 100,000
Yeah,
signatures
so you
on it.
could do that.
So yeah, anybody who has time to go
The
to
White House is not listening to the issue.
that.
So call Jason Smith. and-
Yeah, it's a good thing to do anyway, it's just to get in touch. I mean, these
Just
guys
in
are in
touch
DC
with
all the
them.
time, and they very quickly turn into the DC crowd if you guys aren't talking to them on a regular basis. So just getting used to calling the office from time to time just to see what's up on different votes is a good practice to sort of hold these guys accountable. Because the last thing you guys want is for, and not that Jason would ever turn into this, but for another Joanne Emerson to represent this district and be down to 47% and push issues like that. So he's new, he's going to be influenced by a lot of leadership, and I think that he's probably a stronger conservative than his voting record is, so it'd be good to work with him.
He needs to know that we're behind him. And if you guys hear something on the news or something you're just not real sure, was that in favor or is that not? Email Brian or myself, or, you know, I would get in touch with Brian, is that what I would do? Or Ben, because, you know, these guys are the ones that are studying the issues, studying the nitty gritty, the details. So if you have a question, you know, how should I call Jason about this one? Give him a call.
I may have cards back there, but if I don't, I can grab some.
If you'd like an example of how well it works, the issue of the National Mall Museum came up. I said, hey, send an email to everybody to call Jason about it. She called Leslie, talked to him. I had lunch with his chief of staff just on because the other day, or a day or two later, and when I got to the lunch, he was ready to talk to me about it, because he thought that was gonna be my issue too, to talk to him about it. So it's working, it's getting to him, and it's coming back, and he's paying attention to it. We've got to get involved between these meetings. These meetings aren't going to take care of it. We've got to get involved if we want to do something. If we don't, just let it head down this path.
If I can interject real quick, you talked about being proactive earlier. After we defeated the White River Watershed National Blueway, we decided to set our sights on something else, and that's the Ozark National Scenic Riverway. It was designated that by the federal government back in the, I think, the 60s. Because of some a dam they wanted to put on there for hydroelectric. And if you know anything about that area, the current river, just recently the National Park Service tried to turn the screws on it and shut down an awful lot of things that were going to go on. Jason Smith did get involved in that. A lot of us got involved in that. And we're not just trying to stop the Park Service from regulating us. We want that land back. It belongs to Missouri, and Missouri needs to control it. And in my opinion, the federal government has no authority to control any of those lands. That's one
of the things that they tried to shut down.
Yeah, and well, they actually did shut it down when the government shut down.
Yeah.
And here's something a lot of people may not know about. If you own a campground on that area, you are regulated by the federal government. And when the government shut down, they called and told all of those places that they could not launch a canoe from their area because the river was closed.
How do we get it back?
Now, that was in August. But
So they just had a vote on a Water Resource Development Act, which has a lot of this stuff
Yeah,
to
yeah.
talk about in it. There were 4 members
Yeah.
that voted against that bill. There were only 4 members in the entire House that voted against that. None of them from Missouri.
That's true.
Tim Holzkamp, Matt Salmon from Arizona, Justin Amash from Michigan, and Louis Gohart from Texas.
You're right. He's right. It's you know, call them, especially the local people, because if they don't hear from you, I guarantee you they're hearing from lobbyists every single day.
Is that the one that was also going to try to start regulating the wells?
That's the EPA just doing that through a regulatory move. It doesn't have anything to do with that legislation. I haven't looked at that piece of it. I don't focus on the federal government because I think they're lost. I don't think there's anything we can do to stop the federal government.
They're not lost,
I
we
think-
can still take them.
I know it's your job. But, I work right here in Missouri. I work very hard here in Missouri to try to tell the federal, I believe in the sovereignty of Missouri and the 9th and 10th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, and that's why I work on really hard. So I don't stay up on the federal stuff as much as I'm interested.
Speaking of constitutions, we've got Missouri Constitution's free, we've got United States Constitution's free, take one, study one. If we want to continue this conversation, we're going to start cleaning up the room and we'll
I
continue
got a
it.
couple things real quick. Number one, if you want to get more involved, Thursday evenings, steering committee meeting, Thursday morning, 8:30, no low tax meeting. You want to keep your taxes low, if otherwise they're going up. What else? Going to Bethel Graves, if you want to go over there. And anything else? Oh, gun raffle tickets.
And raffle tickets for sale right
Come
next
see
to
me
it.
if you need a gun raffle ticket.
Tina's got it.
Okay, thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much for
Please.
coming.
If you want